You're listening to the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast. I'm your host, Tamara Marie. Before we get started with this episode, I wanted to ask you a question. Why did you start learning Spanish in the first place? I'm pretty sure it's because you wanted to have conversations with real people and not just spend all day on apps or trying to talk to AI or simply learning vocabulary and grammar. So, if you've been struggling to actually speak Spanish and you're not really confident about your ability to talk to native speakers, I wanted to invite you to join our free Spanish Conversation Challenge. You'll practice real conversations that will build your confidence, and you'll learn simple strategies that will help you speak naturally so you sound more like a native speaker and not like an AI robot. So, if you want to improve your confidence speaking Spanish for this new year, I invite you to join the Spanish Conversation Challenge. Now, it is completely free, but spots are limited. So, if you want to make this year the year that you become fluent in Spanish, I encourage you to join us at SpanishConversationChallenge.com. That's SpanishConversationChallenge.com to sign up for our free challenge. Now, we do kick off January 6th. We are going to have daily live sessions. We're going to provide you with guidance so you know exactly what to say, and you won't be intimidated trying to talk to native speakers on your own. So we will guide you through this process. All of our team are very, very friendly. If you're a part of our community, you already know that. If you're not, I encourage you to get this experience so you'll know how it feels to be a part of our community in a real way. So join us, SpanishConversationChallenge.com. Spaces will be limited, so make sure you secure your spot today. We get started on January 6th. Again, SpanishConversationChallenge.com. Now let's get started with the episode. Hola y bienvenidos al episodio 218. Welcome to episode 218 of the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast. I am your host, Tamara Marie, and as the new year approaches, I know that many of us are going to be spending time with family and friends, whether we're going to gatherings, celebrations, and just thinking about reflecting on the year that has passed. And we're also going to be most likely setting goals for the year ahead. So I wanted to share some phrases that you could use during these gatherings so that not only can you connect with other people, but you can also share some things that have happened for you this year as well as your plans for the next year. And you can join in the conversation in Espanol. Plus, I'm also going to share a behind-the-scenes story about an iconic Spanish holiday song that I am sure you have heard before, but you probably don't know about this story. So by the end of the episode, you will have everything that you need to really have a conversation with your Spanish-speaking friends and family, whether you're celebrating the new year, any other holiday during this holiday season, or just gathering with friends as you may have some time off of school or work during this time. So with that, vamos a empezar. Let's get started.
Bienvenidos. Welcome to the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast,
the show for Spanish learners
that love music,
travel, and culture.
Close your grammar textbooks,
shut down the language apps, and open your ears
to how Spanish is spoken in the real world.
Let us show you
how to go from beginner
to bilingual.
Here's your host,
certified language coach,
Tamara Marie.
All right, so let's start reviewing some phrases that you might want to use when you are going to a get-together. So first thing you're obviously going to have to do is greet people. And a lot of times when we go to events or celebrations this time of year, we might be seeing people that we haven't seen in a while. So let's start with some phrases that you can use when you arrive at a gathering or if you're welcoming guests into your home. So the first one, and it might be really obvious, Feliz Año Nuevo. So that's how you would say Happy New Year, which I think people tend to say at least the first few weeks of January, if not the whole month, depends on where you are. So saying Feliz Año Nuevo is probably a great way to start. You can also ask someone, how have you been? So this again is probably more natural for someone you haven't seen in a while. So normally you would just probably say like, ¿Cómo estás? But that's usually for people that you probably see pretty often. But if it's someone you haven't seen in a while, you might want to ask, ¿Cómo has estado? ¿Cómo has estado? So that means, how have you been? Right? And adding on to that, might say, mucho tiempo, ¿cómo has estado? So like mucho tiempo is just like a way of saying, it's been a while, it's been a long time. And you could just say, ¿Cómo has estado? How have you been? Another thing you can say, especially, during this time of year, you might, again, be seeing people that you haven't seen in a while or just connecting with friends and family. And you might want to say, it's good to see you. So a way to say that in Spanish, it's more of a natural conversational way to say it. Instead of saying, es bueno or something like that, you can say, me alegra verte. Me alegra verte. So that's literally like, it makes me happy to see you, or it makes me glad. So me alegra. You can think of this as kind of like me gusta, right? But you don't want to say me gusta verte, I want to see you, because the person's in front of you. So you're saying me alegra, it makes me happy, it makes me glad to see you. Me alegra verte. So these are great ways to just really get started and to make people feel welcome, or to join in on a conversation. So New Year is also a time where people are reflecting on the year that's passed, usually expressing gratitude. And here are a few ways that you can express your appreciation. So if you're going to an event and you want to say, thanks for inviting me, you can say, gracias por invitarme. Gracias por invitarme. So again, once you kind of come in, you greeted, you say, thanks for inviting me, thanks for having me. So gracias por invitarme. And if you want to say that you're grateful for something, you could say, estoy agradecido. Estoy agradecido if you are male, or if you're female, you would say estoy agradecida. Estoy agradecida. So you can think of that like it sort of sounds like grateful in English, right? Agradecido. So if you could say estoy muy agradecido, like I'm very grateful. And if you want to say what you're grateful for, in this case, you can use the word por. So that would be your connector. So estoy muy agradecida por todo lo que compartimos este año. So I'm very grateful for everything we shared this year. So these are some good phrases that, again, really go along with this winter holiday season. So now let's say you are at a celebration, someone's offering a toast. This happens a lot during New Year's, but there's other get-togethers like, I guess, weddings, or I don't know where else people do toast. Maybe like a retirement party, any type of celebration where you're toasting, not roasting, but toasting someone. Although I actually prefer roast. I think they're a lot more fun. But anyway, so when you are toasting someone, obviously you may have heard this phrase before. So if you're having a drink and you're going to share, you would say salud. Salud is like the just kind of way of toasting. And then you could say, if you wanted to add something to your toast, instead of just saying salud, and sort of clinking your glasses together, you could say salud por un año lleno de felicidad y éxito. Salud por un año lleno de felicidad y éxito. So, cheers to a year full of happiness and success. So this could be your, hopes for the next year, for the year coming up. And then if you wanted to talk about like your wishes for the new year, this is something that's also pretty common during a toast or a celebration. If you want to say something like, may this year bring us, whatever it is that you hope for the next year. You might be aware that in this case, we're going to be using the subjunctive, right? Because we're talking about our hopes and wishes for the future. But you don't need to master the subjunctive to know how to say this one phrase. So I'm going to give you the cheat sheet, the Cliff's Notes. So if you want to say may, so in Spanish, the word that is used anytime you're saying something like, may this happen, or may there be this, or may there be that, right? And sort of like that passive voice, you're actually going to use the word que. So I know generally que means other things, usually what or that, but in this instance, it actually would translate to English better as may. So I could say, que este año nos traiga mucha salud y amor. que este año nos traiga mucha salud y amor. So may this year bring us lots of health and love. So que este año is like may this year. So may this year, and then you can sort of fill it in with, whatever you want to say there. But the key thing in this phrase is the verb traer. So we're using the verb traer, which literally means to bring. So, it can be used to bring, actual objects to a party. Like yo voy a traer una bebida, yo voy a traer vino. So I'm going to bring a drink, I'm going to bring wine. Yo voy a traer hielo, because that's important. So I'm going to bring ice. So you could also use just the verb traer in that case. So someone's asking you, hey, what are you going to bring? Voy a traer un postre, dessert or pastry. Yo voy a traer mi famosa sopa de lentejas. So I'm going to bring my famous lentil soup, which I actually did. I actually went to a celebration and I made this lentil soup that I haven't made in a while. And, it's one of my most, I would say I'm proud of myself. It's a simple recipe, but it has a lot of great flavors and people really liked it. So if you're going to bring something, you could say voy a traer. But in this case, when you're saying may the year bring us, so again, this is more of a figurative way of speaking. You would use traiga. So that is actually the subjunctive form of traer. So que este año nos traiga is may this year bring us. But you could just say in general, que este año traiga. So may this year bring. Que este año traiga. So if you want to say, to bring us, so you're talking to a group, que este año nos traiga éxito. So may this year bring us success. Que este año nos traiga felicidad. So may this year bring us happiness. Que este año nos traiga salud. May this year bring us health. So these are some phrases that you can use while you are celebrating in Spanish. So I hope that you found that helpful. Again, as you're working on improving your conversations, the real key to fluency is learning what to say in different situations and how you can actually begin to master topic by topic, scenario by scenario, what are different things that you can say when you are with real people, right? Because I'm pretty sure that is the reason that you are learning Spanish. You probably are not learning because you want to just be able to read, although, yes, reading is great. But, here we focus on fluency. And as I always say, and this isn't really my saying, but this is just sort of a linguistic truth, a language that is not spoken is a dead language. So Latin, for example, outside of maybe a Catholic church service or a Catholic school where you might be learning Latin, Latin is a dead language, right? Spanish is a spoken language, right? It comes from Latin, like other languages. This is where Latino comes from, or Latin America. So it's not just Spanish. You also have Portuguese and French. But anyway, I digress. The point is, if you are not speaking the language is dead. So we want to be able to improve the things that we can actually say in Spanish and the situations where we feel comfortable speaking, because that is how we will begin to gain the confidence to be fluent. And if you want to get more Spanish conversation practice in this coming year, I do encourage you to sign up for our Spanish Conversation Challenge. We will be starting that. We generally kick off the new year with a challenge. This year will be no different. So if you go to SpanishConversationChallenge.com, you can get all the details. It will kick off in January, but it's important that you reserve your spot because we generally do fill up fast. But during the challenge, we offer so many opportunities for you to practice not only these phrases, but other phrases in Spanish, things that you want to say to the people that matter to you. So this isn't sort of a generic opportunity to just kind of, learn how to say, quiero una cerveza or something like that. Like that, we deal with real situations. So make sure you sign up for the challenge. Again, it's completely free. Gives you an opportunity to get comfortable speaking to real people in Spanish. So SpanishConversationChallenge.com if you'd like to sign up for that. All right, now what I promised you at the beginning was I was going to share with you a little behind the scenes story about a very popular song. And I know you've heard the song before. And I cannot, talk about holiday gatherings without mentioning the song Feliz Navidad, which I'm sure you all know means Merry Christmas. Now, this song, it's really very popular around this time of year. It's actually by an artist called Jose Feliciano. And it's one of the most beloved holiday songs really around the world. He started this song and it became a phenomenon. And the backstory is really just as inspiring as the message of the song itself. It's a very, very simple song. And I definitely recommend that if you, whether or not, whatever holidays you celebrate, you find songs like this that are very simple, because the lyrics are literally just Feliz Navidad, Próspero Año y Felicidad. And it says it over and over again. And then he says it in English, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart, which is not a translation of what he said before, by the way, but it's just him saying something, adding on to that. So Feliz Navidad, he repeated, Feliz Navidad. I'm not going to try to sing, but it just says Feliz Navidad, Próspero Año y Felicidad. And I think singing along with this will really help your pronunciation. So there are a couple of things in this phrase alone that people tend to mess up if they're reading Spanish and they're not native Spanish speakers. So if you look at it, you might say Feliz or Feliz. You might say Feliz Navidad. But when you listen to the song, you can actually hear the pronunciation Feliz. So that letter that we think is Z in English, which is Z in English, in Spanish, does not have that Z sound. It's actually more S, like an S. So Feliz. And then Navidad. So that D is more of a soft D, that first D in Navidad. So again, listening to that song, I encourage you just practice saying that, whether or not you celebrate Christmas. It'll really help your pronunciation, and it's so super simple. And the part where he says Próspero Año y Felicidad, because it has that letter ñ and año, and it's not a letter that we have in English, and sometimes we don't pronounce it very well. So I encourage you, try to sing along with it. And for the story behind the song, this is actually an excerpt from the song Despacito. I'm sorry, not from the song. It's also a very popular song. From the book Despacito and Other Latin Hits That Made Us Dance by Lela Cobo, and actually had her on the podcast. And I'll link to that episode in the show notes where I interviewed her. She tells so many great stories about some of probably the most popular Latin music songs and how Latin music really became to grow in popularity and the artists that created that music. It is very insightful. So if you love music, I definitely recommend that book. Like I said, I will link that episode with the author in the show notes. And also, I have the book in both English and Spanish. There's an English and Spanish version, and there's also an audiobook, which is really great. And she does a lot of interviews with these artists, so you actually get to hear in their own words what they say. So it's also very good for conversational practice, because you can listen to actual conversations with these artists, and the topic is just so interesting. But one of the stories she shared in her book, Despacito and Other Latin Hits That Made Us Dance, is about the song Feliz Navidad. So in the book it says, José Feliciano escribió Feliz Navidad en 1970, mientras grababa en un estudio de Los Ángeles. Inspirado por la nostalgia que sentía al estar lejos de su hogar en Puerto Rico durante las fiestas, quiso crear algo que combinará el espíritu navideño con un mensaje universal de amor y esperanza. So I will translate that for those of you who are beginners. José Feliciano wrote Feliz Navidad in 1970 while recording in a studio in Los Angeles. Inspired by the nostalgia he felt being away from his home in Puerto Rico during the holidays, he wanted to create something that combined the Christmas spirit with a universal message of love and hope. So again, the song is just a beautiful reminder of how people come together this time of year, no matter where you're from, what your particular traditions are. It just tends to be a time where, a lot of people do struggle during the holidays, but also it's a good time to reflect. And hopefully listening to a song like this, it's a little more upbeat. It'll get you in a better mood if you're not loving this time of year. I know personally, the winter is not my favorite time. No me gusta el invierno. I do not like the winter. I would prefer the warmth. And I would also, like José Feliciano, prefer to be in Puerto Rico durante los días de fiesta. Okay, so, I think this is just kind of, again, a great song. And I will include in the show notes with the song, also with the lyrics, which, again, I already told you, super, super simple, but really fun to sing along with, just to practice your pronunciation and get in the mood for holiday celebrations. So if you hear the song playing during a gathering, you can use it as an opportunity to share what you know about it. So you could say, hey, ¿sabías que esta canción fue escrita por un puertorriqueño? O por un boricua, no sé. So did you know the song was written by a Puerto Rican? Because honestly, I didn't know. When I hear Feliz Navidad, for some reason, I thought it was a Mexican song. I thought the same thing about the song Guantanamera until, again, another episode, we talked about that song with Joenia, who's on our team. She's from Cuba, and she said, oh yeah, Guantanamera is a woman from Guantanamo, which we all know Guantanamo Bay here in the U.S. So I said, oh wow, how did I miss that? So this is another song I thought was from Mexico that is not. So Feliz Navidad is written by a Puerto Rican. You can also say, me encanta esta canción. Siempre me pone de buen humor. Me encanta esta canción. Siempre me pone de buen humor. So I love this song. It always puts me in a good mood. So, if you hear it around or you want to share, you can talk about that or any other song that you like. These are some good phrases to know. And so as you are kind of closing out the evening, you can always leave on a high note. Here are a couple of things you can say as you're leaving a celebration. So instead of just saying adios, which, we all know how to say that, adios, adios, you can say something a little bit more meaningful. So you can always say gracias por todo. Gracias por todo. So that's like, thanks for everything, which is something great to say to the host. You don't just want to leave, eat someone's food and then just go, all right, yep, bye, right? You want to kind of express a little bit more gratitude. You say, gracias por todo. Thanks for everything. Que tengas un excelente año. Que tengas un excelente año. So it's have an excellent year. So again, you can leave via, again, telling someone to have a great year without, again, constantly just saying, Feliz Año Nuevo, Feliz Año Nuevo. You can say, que tengas un excelente año. O que tengas un año con éxito. So this is, again, kind of in that may you have this que tengas. And again, this is the verb tener. Another use of the subjunctive. You do not have to master the entire subjunctive to know how to say this. So just remember how to say que tengas. Just like you would say que tengas un buen día, que tengas un buen año, que tengas un año con éxito, have a successful year. Okay? You can also say, nos vemos pronto, cuídate. Nos vemos pronto, cuídate. So see you soon. So that's nos vemos is, see you later kind of thing. But if you say nos vemos pronto, you're really expressing desire. I really would like to see you again soon. Like, don't let this be, the last time I see you for a while, like it has been before, right? Nos vemos pronto, cuídate. Cuídate. Now, this is the verb cuidar, really cuidarse, right? Like to take care of oneself. And it's actually the command tense. It's like, take care of yourself. No. Giving them a command. But no, it's not really seen that way. This is actually very common and polite. Cuídate. Cuídate. If you're talking to a whole group, it would be like cuídense, something like that. If you're talking to like ustedes. But usually you could just say it to the person you're talking to, right? Cuídate. All right, see you soon. Take care. Nos vemos pronto. Cuídate. So again, a lot better than just going adios and say gracias por todo. Que tengas un excelente año. Nos vemos pronto. Cuídate. So that allows you to show some appreciation and leave on a positive note. That's again expressing some hope for the future that you will get together again sooner rather than later. All right, so I hope you had enjoyed this episode. As a quick recap, some of the phrases we talked about that you can use when you are going to celebrations towards the end of the year or just with family and friends that you're getting together with that you haven't seen in a while. You can always greet people, Feliz Año Nuevo. You can say, ¿Cómo has estado? How have you been? Me alegra verte. It's good to see you. Gracias por invitarme. Thanks for inviting me. Estoy muy agradecida por todo lo que compartimos este año. I'm very grateful for everything we've shared this year. Salud por un año lleno de felicidad y éxito. Cheers to a year full of happiness and success. Que este año nos traiga mucha salud y amor. May this year bring us lots of health and love. And also don't forget about that iconic song, Feliz Navidad. You can use it as a conversation starter. You can share what you learned about the story from this podcast at any other gathering that you're at if you hear the song on the radio or played at a party. So thanks for tuning into this episode of the Learn Spanish con Salsa podcast. If you found these phrases helpful, please share it with a friend that's learning Spanish. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and leave a review. Reviews really do help us share this podcast with others. It really also gives us feedback, so we know, do you like what we're doing? Do you want to hear something different? So please, don't hesitate to leave us some feedback. And as always, I hope that something you heard in this episode will take you one step closer from Spanish beginner to bilingual. Hasta la próxima y feliz año nuevo.